Imagine if you are living in a city or a country that there is no law and order and there is no governing body that could take care of the basic necessities of your city. That would be chaos and anarchy. What we are witnessing in a world stage is the same thing, chaos and anarchy, because there is no supreme governing body that could oversee the action of all countries. There is no supranational institution that is ruling is binding by all countries. Of course, we have certain global institutions like UN, like World Bank, IMF, ICC, ICJ, and others. But those are not effective and have no or limited power. Instead of having one single supranational institution that is elected by all countries and could have the same type of behavior and action toward each individual country despite of their power or weaknesses, we're going to have a situation that certain countries that have more power, they're gonna dictate their terms and rules as international rules. That's what we're witnessing now. With the coming of transportation and communication age, the world is shrinking and people could travel all around the world faster than ever before, and they could communicate with each other faster than ever. In this shrinking world, we need a supreme governing body that write rules and order for all countries around the world, that is binding, that all countries accept and respect. This is not something new. Throughout history, we dealt with the same thing but in a smaller scale. Look at tribal societies. When humans lived in tribe, each tribe has its own chief. The chief was the supreme governing body of a tribe that have certain rules for that tribe. When few tribes came together, they created city-state. City-states also had a governing body. After city-state, we went toward empires. Empires had emperors and kings. These emperors and kings were the supreme governing body of those lands. In certain part of the world, a king of a city-state could keep his or her position, but have a king of kings, means there is a king that oversee the action of all kings in different city-states. And then we had the emergence of nation states. The emergence of nation states is something very new to humanity. After World War II and creation of the UN, these nation states became each individual country with their own characteristics. Out of these 193 countries, there was one single country that emerged as a supreme governing body. Although this specific country, meaning the US, never officially was crowned with the position of supreme governing body of the world, but in reality, with the institution created, like a World Bank, IMF, with the world reserve currency that is holding that US dollar, and with the rules that was considered as international rules for decades, the US filled the position of supreme governing body for the whole world for few decades. But now what we're witnessing is many countries around the world don't accept this position, and also they don't think the UN and other institution, global institution, has any power and legitimacy over all countries. That's why there is a demand for creation of a real supreme governing body for the whole world, a government that is supranational and all country agree and accept is ruling at the same time is elected by all countries. The situation we are living right now is both harmful for countries that are poorer, like global south countries, and also is harmful for the US. It's harmful for the poorer countries because they're not able to have a clear picture for their future, for the perspective of their future. And is harmful for the US because a single specific country out of 193 countries that is responsible for its own citizen cannot bear the responsibility of all countries around the world. These two responsibilities cannot coexist. A country is responsible to its own citizens, at the same time cannot be responsible for the whole world. That's why we have this interfering responsibility of the US. At one point, want to promote free market economy to the whole world when it's beneficial to its own interest. And when it realizes that free market economy is not beneficial to the US economy, stop promoting it and become a protectionist closed market economy. When all countries around the world, especially global south countries, see this hypocrisy and double standards, they lose their trust of US and whatever is coming out of the decisions and foreign policy of the US. That's why we need a supreme governing body that is supranational and is representing the responsibility of all countries around the world and all the people around the world, not a specific country that had both responsibilities of its own citizen at the same time want to act as a global supreme governing body. Of course, a transition from what we have today to electing an effective supreme governing body for the whole world is something that takes courage and takes a long way to go. But humanity only could achieve peace and prosperity when we have a supreme governing body that if a single country violates its rule that accepted by all country would gather together and would stop that specific country from violating international rule accepted by all countries, not specific country or certain western country that they crown themselves with the position of supreme governing body and wrote rules that those rules became international rules without asking the majority of world's population that if those rules are beneficial to them or not. So, as you can see, many problems we are seeing today, the wars we are seeing, would be solved much more effectively when we have supreme governing body that all countries accept and has power over all countries. At the same time, when we have a supreme governing body, a few handful of individuals that have access to wealth cannot write and manipulate international laws. And when there is one single currency accepted by all countries, there would not be exorbitant privilege of a country that holds the status of world reserve currency. The economic growth experienced the past few decades is not be concentrated in certain countries that hold reserve currency. The benefit of economic growth would be experienced by all countries around the world, not only certain countries. I really want to know your idea about this subject. What do you think? Do you think is there any other way to solve today's problems and what can be? I really want to know your idea.